Okay, we are live. I hope I find you well wherever you're coming from. Feel free to let me know in the comments if everything is coming through well. Audio wise, I've got a beautiful drone in the background to set the atmosphere here. And I don't know if you can hear if I just turn down this drone. You might hear some of the cicadas in the background here in Costa Rica. The sun has just set. We're nearing the end of March, and this is the hottest time of year here in Costa Rica. It is just absolutely seething heat. We're at the end of the dry season. At least we hope that April will be the last month before the rains come and offer a great cooling respite after the long dry season, which begins way back in about mid-December. So thank you for joining me here tonight. And once again, the chat is open. So if you have any comments or questions, and please let me know if the audio is clear, because I can try and make some adjustments. So thank you for joining me here on this collective prayer for peace that we'll be engaging tonight. And it's important because the world around us is just transforming. It seems day by day, moment to moment even. We're in a very accelerated journey, and it can feel somewhat difficult to be sort of in our center and to feel even just absolutely hopeless when we see what's going on in the Middle East with the war and all kinds of timelines with AI and transhumanism. There's really a lot of intense things happening in the world, and it can be a difficult time to feel hopeful, but I am defiantly hopeful. One of my mantras is hope springs eternal, and there is a lot of good things going on. If anything, we have to be more and more discerning about what noise we let into our lives, because the media should not have any of our trust at this point. And I think we know enough about all the corruption in the world. I mean, what more do we need to know to really start to turn our backs in some way from that political, social world? Maybe not absolutely, completely, but really one of the bigger meta themes that is happening on our planet right now is that humanity is slowly, gradually liberating itself from an ancient tyrannical system, a system of beliefs, a system of civilization that has stymied our evolution for a very long time, kept us in this kind of dark ages of ignorance of truth, ignorance of the wisdoms that we really need to nourish our souls. So if you follow my work, you might be aware that I'm teaching this incredible course for the Shift Network right now called Gaia Sound Healing. And we do module 4 tomorrow, which will be a deep dive into the whole idea of what I call the Gnostic Renaissance. And this course has been very timely because the Gnostic wisdom has really been highly suppressed for a very, very long time. In fact, most of the mysticisms, the indigeneity of our species has been suppressed for a very long time by colonial forces, forces of imperialism and empire. And we've been put in this very controlled planetary system for thousands of years, it seems, at least as far as we know, from most of the industrial education that we receive. The patriarchal order might seem about at least 2,000 years old. And it's really in the last 2,000 years that we've seen this kind of patriarchal vice on the planet. And I'm an ardent student of history, and I've been really studying in the last year this period of time, after what we're told is the birth of Christ and 0 AD, that kind of demarcation of before Christ and after. And this time period, the first 3 or 4 centuries after year 0 were highly controversial and filled with all kinds, and especially in the Middle East and Europe, there was all kinds of uprisings and also this great severing of the neoclassical European pagan period that existed before it. We saw the burning of all these mystery school libraries like Alexandria and many others. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of documents of wisdom that was just burned, disappeared. And we were then kind of put through this dark ages, and dark is really signifying ignorance. And it's interesting because according to the Gnostics, ignorance is one of the greatest evils. Because according to the Gnostic worldview, humanity is born with an inborn divine intelligence that they called the nous. And this allows us to really discern truth. And it's something we need to cultivate. And we are really a genius species when we are allowed, given the space, the sanctity, to unfold ourselves in righteous ways, in appropriate ways, in healthy ways. And this just hasn't been the case for the last 2,000 years. There's been this real stultification of human evolution. Of course, there's been flowerings of genius, especially in Renaissance periods, when those more classical ethics come forward and there's a lot more freedom and liberty and the erotic and the sacred and the sexual, and all these things then reflower, and then they're usually pushed down, and it's kind of this wave. And now, in my humble opinion, there's a new renaissance that's forming around us. And what this all pertains to in our talk tonight and our activation that we'll be doing in the second half of this with the collective prayer is we are remembering the powers of spirituality and how they extend into a true spiritual science. And these are some things that our mystical ancestors understood very, very well. And we are now starting to reclaim. So this whole notion of coming together in prayer, why that is important is because we're once again beginning to understand the sciences of consciousness, what science calls the noetic sciences. And when we come together, our fields of energy, our electromagnetic fields, which are very much the nature of our soul, they coalesce. And if we spend time creating an atmosphere of what is known as coherence, where we create, first of all, inner coherence, meaning harmony within ourselves between our heart rate and our brainwave state. If we bring our brain down from that beta brainwave state where it's just overactive, draining, almost leaking all this cerebral activity, and when we bring it down into the alpha brainwave state, we start to activate our parasympathetic nervous system. We find ourselves centering energetically. And this allows us to step into a more meditative consciousness where our intelligence actually expands beyond just the limitations of the egoic personality, and it starts to expand and find a connection to the greater quantum field, or what some call the source field, or you could even call it the Akashic field if we want to pay homage to our Vedic ancestors from India. And this is one of the ways that we become masters of consciousness, which is one of the great themes of this burgeoning Aquarian age, as we move into more of the ethereal airiness where subtle energies will become more highlighted, and we'll start to understand that our consciousness is something that we have control over. Because the default right now is that we're just endlessly throttled by our phones and all these distractions and the worldliness of the world, all the news out there, and we end up extroverting so much of our energy that our consciousness becomes victimized by the external world, and we're just, and as the external world gets more and more insane and the media learns more and more tricks, especially now with AI and all of what that's doing to our world in terms of counterfeiting truth and all kinds of new image illusion making technologies. It's like our mind is just being like led all over the place, and there's an inundation of information in this age as well, which is an age of restoring those great libraries of knowledge. But with that comes all this sensationalistic propaganda that we really have to be balanced with how much time we're spending out there seeking, searching, and spending more time in the inner world, in the internal world, because that's where we can really make the soul adjustments, as Pythagoras would call it, and start to really feel sovereignty over our consciousness. It's as simple as just taking a moment in the morning when perhaps you have a meditation practice in the morning, or for that matter, any circumstance in your day. If you just spend 5 breaths becoming fully aware of that breathing process, which leads you into contact with the body, which is happening here and now, you start to initiate a whole different state of consciousness. And I believe this is the sane consciousness that the Gnostics were talking a lot about, and what we really need to restore on the planet, because our consciousness has become so fragmented and disjointed. So we'll be engaging techniques to create this kind of harmony within ourselves, to create coherence within ourselves, and then coherence with each other energetically, no matter what time zone or what location we are in the planet. Because one of the beautiful things about quantum physics, which is opening us to the spiritual sciences, is that we know things are what's called non-locality, meaning our energy may seem, by the limitations of our senses, to be contained in the body, but we can actually extend it beyond. In the flash of a moment, we can send our consciousness wherever we wish and contact, whether it's even sending it to the sun. Sometimes when I'm doing song channeling, I'll just like shoot a ray of my awareness to a planet even, or a star, and open up a channel to bring forth that vibration. And it's a truly fantastic journey. So, and then when we come together in this coherence, we activate almost a kind of magical energy. And this has been science now. This is what's so beautiful about this age that we live in now. And I want to highlight someone who I've praised many, many times in talks and writings over the years is Lynn McTaggart. And if you don't know Lynn's work, she's a very humble scientific journalist who over 20 years ago wrote this fantastic book called The Field, which was her interest in quantum physics, really. And it really opened in her and the book's premise this notion that quantum physics really helps us understand and explain the metaphysical, the mystical, the spiritual dimensions of our reality, verifying them, taking them out of the judgmental zone of superstitious woo-woo that a lot of stolid and antiquated and close-minded science has relegated all of these beautiful realms to. And that book was such a success that Lynn went on to write then The Intention Experiment, which is incredible in a whole other way, because after kind of the theoretical writings of The Field, she became so engrossed in what she was discovering that she decided, I want to do this scientifically as well. So she started working with scientists, doing experiments to really chart and observe the powers of consciousness and intention on our reality. And she found incredible things, like absolutely mind-blowing, I would say miraculous things. I'm just going to take these headphones off for a moment because it's kind of giving me an echo, and I'll be using these later when I'll be activating some sound. But yeah, so Lynn has been really discovering all this amazing stuff and then documenting it and writing it. And it's absolutely like mind-blowing. Like when I read her books, it just gives me so much hope, because I can witness that we are on the verge of unlocking some very, very profoundly powerful things in the world. And sometimes, especially these last few days, when I'm just looking at all the doom and gloominess in the world, sometimes I think that a lot of what the media is trying to put out there is almost to distract us, from the fact that there is good, glorious things happening on the planet, breakthrough moments. And we are at a paradigm shifting moment in a massive way, with the spiritual sciences that are burgeoning and with the potentiality of the noetic sciences of consciousness really coming more and more mainstream. And they really, really are. There is a great awakening happening on the planet. I can testify in my own life itself, having been involved in spirituality and wellness now for over 2 decades. I've been able to just witness the growth of this culture all over the planet, and it's been absolutely growing every year at an exponential rate. And that's very, very exciting. And it's not perfect. There's tons of messiness. We have to remember we are breaking an ancient cage. And as we start to explore a lot of our mystical abilities again, they've been like so atrophied for so long that of course there's clumsy stuff that happens. Of course there's things like grandiosity complexes that happen with some of these, false gurus. There's tons of slips. There's tons of mistakes. But, the greater context that we need to bring in is that we're pioneering something here. And we have to bring a spirit of scientific exploration into this, a spiritual scientific exploration. It doesn't mean we don't hold each other accountable if we make grave mistakes, but it means that we have to also give ourselves some leeway, that we also want to open this up for revelry and for a fun and joyful exploration. Just seeing the comments. Thank you, John. Yeah, I'm reading her book, The Power of 8. Yeah, I was about to get to that. Wonder-filled. I loved how you put that. I mean, The Power of 8, it's like every book she writes, what I love about it is like she's unlocking like new levels with every book. And the power of eight is fascinating because now she's taking the intention experiment work into these like study groups, or rather like metaphysical prayer groups, intention groups. And it's very interesting because I've been saying for the last couple of years that it feels like right now planet Earth itself has become a gigantic mystery school, a giant center for spiritual education. And in my research into the ancient mystery schools, it is said that they would study in groups that they called mystery cells, where they'd have an equal number of men and women. I think it was usually like 5 men, 5 women. And they would have this number to basically work, do their even things like theurgy, which is like very divine magic, meditation, prayer, vibrational practices. This would be their like study group. And I find it interesting that Lynn has found out in her book, The Power of Eight, that when you bring 8 people together or more, it unlocks a very special, magical, miraculous quality to the field. So very, very profound that would happen, that would open things up. So this is something that I feel we all should be employing more and more and more to push back on all the doom and gloom. You know, the whole system has been set up to make us feel subjugated, submissive, to be out of our sovereignty. So when all these big, terrible wars happen and lockdowns and what have you, and who knows what's on the horizon, we may be going back into shapes like that socially. We have so many things that we can now do to take back our sovereignty and start to interact with the world. Imagine if everyone had like a daily Power of Eight group, you know, where we were sending waves of peaceful vibration every day out into the world. It would be very profound. And of course, in Greg Braden's work, who's another kind of spiritual scientist, who's in some ways like a peer, like with Lynn, he's discovered in some of his books, he has this beautiful scientific anecdote where he talks about when 9/11 happened, we have sort of systems on the planet, satellite systems that can measure the ionosphere of the Earth, which is literally the aura of Gaia. And when 9/11 happened, it was such a like global calamitous event that they found there was parallel responsive ripples in the ionosphere, in the actual aura of Gaia, as that event was unfolding in that day. Which is like, wow, on a level, but it's also like, wow, imagine if something amazing were to happen on the same day. I've been writing this movie idea for years that I hope to make one day, where I have this vision of the sun having these like unprecedented solar flares that happen that cause like a mass like global DMT experience in humanity for like a day. Wow, I mean, imagine what would happen if something beautiful happened, and what that would do to the ionosphere. So I took these ideas myself, and back in 2016, I believe it was around when I first started really teaching my source resonance sound healing training and started to initiate others onto this path of sound healing, which is one of the primary energetic medicines now, and will continue to grow in our world. There's going to be absolutely miraculous things that we will discover as our vibrational intelligence is really restored. So I started this initiative, this what I now call a sacred activist initiative called Vibrations of Peace. And the idea was to bring people together in coherence, in prayer, in collective prayer, where we cohere our consciousness and hold a vibration of peace for 30 minutes. And of course, from all of my sound healing experiences and learnings, I was like, but if we add sound to this, we're going to live the prophetic teaching of Saint Augustine, who very famously said, to sing is to pray twice. To sing is to pray twice. There is something extraordinary about sound. It vitalizes things, it amplifies things. There's a reason why the ancient Vedic sages said that sound is an accelerator toward enlightened consciousness. It just, because sound is literally our nature. Everything is sound. The yogis went on to say nada yoga, the universe is sound. And then, of course, people like Nikola Tesla, if you learn the secrets of of vibration, you start to understand the universe in a very essential way. So there's something about sound that when we make sound with our voices, we're nourishing ourselves. As the Sufis would say, gizaira, sound is food for the soul. And you've probably seen this in your own life. Anytime you sing or you raise your voice in vocal toning, there's like an immediate harmonization that happens to your being. So we want to be, oh, Lindsay's on this. Nice to see you, Lindsay. We want to bring more sound, more vibration into our lives. I chant on the daily, and anytime I'm feeling down, or, tomorrow in our Gaia Sound Healing, we're doing a whole module on sound gnosis, a practice of, if you have a challenge in your life, or there's like, if you have a question in your life and you're like, what is this, what is this conundrum that I'm faced with? We'll sound into it. Like, take a meditative seat, bring the challenge to your heart, and tone into it. And using the vowel sounds like O, A, E, I are said to be very holy, going all the way back to the Egyptian mystery schools. And use the vowel sounds it will focus your consciousness, and then it actually starts to move energy. And these challenges that beset us is just energy that may be knotted up, that may be blocked. And then you sound into it. And while you're sounding, your brain waves are going to step down. You're going to start to get into the parasympathetic nervous system. All of this is happening in real time. And sounding also starts to initiate the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between the two hemispheres of the brain. You become more unified in your thinking, and you're brought more into the soma of the body. And all of this is to say that you will eventually start to have insights and revelations, perhaps immediately or over time. And then after the sound practice, your really best opportunity to receive the revelations is then. So you just sit in meditation in receptive consciousness, and you just see what wants to come forward. And we should all be doing this more and more, because one of the programs that we're trying to transform on the planet is, taking back our authority and not always seeking outside for answers, even if it's like going to your favorite healer or your therapist all the time. Like, we should be training ourselves in how to also work with experts, guides, teachers, but also learn how to be in our gnosis ourself, our divine intelligence, our divine knowing, so that we can discern the answers ourselves, So the next time you're really faced with a conundrum in your life, I really invite you to take it into the voice. And if you can, go out in nature, because once you're out in nature, nature's going to entrain you to its vibration. And nature is always in a very calm vibration, of course, unless there's a storm or something like that. Mother Earth has her emotional tizzies as well. But for the most part, nature is just in this standing wave vibration of, what's known as the Schumann resonance, very calm. And of course, the Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz, that's happening in the theta brainwave state, which is like below the alpha, which is where we actually start to get visions. So it's like being in nature just makes you mystical. That should be a t-shirt. Being in nature makes you mystical. That should be a mantra for life. So how about we do our practice now after all of that prelude, introduction. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to get some sound going. I have this audio software called Ableton hooked up, and I have some beautiful healing ambient sounds I'm going to be activating to give us something to sound with. And then I'll guide us into a meditation at the beginning where we're going to come into a state of coherence, and we're going to connect to each other energetically. And then we will go into holding this vibration of peace for 20 minutes if you can sustain it. And if you don't feel like using your voice, and if you're not in a space where you can make sound, that's quite all right. You can just listen along to the tones that I'll be doing. But if you are in a space where you could make a little bit of sound, you can even hum. Humming is also a very powerful way just to kind of quietly make sound. And the idea is that we will be radiating this peace, not to anywhere directly, but of course we know what's going on in the Middle East, but there's lots of conflict happening in the world. We're just going to be like giving these vibrations of peace to also the grid of Gaia, to sort of like nourish her so that she can spread these vibrations where they need to be spread. So we're going to be also co-creating with the Earth Mother in this sonic prayer that we'll be doing. So I'm going to get the headphones on. And then I'm going to get some sound going. So just give me a second here. Right, so hopefully you hear that might sound like a stringed instrument, like a monochord in the background. Let me get a nice low drone going. Right, so let us prepare ourselves for sound, for meditation, to create these beautiful vibrations of peace. So if you've been having a bit of a rough day or feeling tense, just give your body a little shake here. I invite you to just allow the voice here to be cathartic, meaning a release valve, just sighing out, even shaking the face, moving the tongue around. Let's invite the sacred Silly in, which is powerful medicine. Can buzz the lips. And just a few nice sighs, like just clearing out, letting go of anything that's burdening you. All right. And for those who may eventually be watching this in replay, just know that this field that we're setting up is going to be ever present after. So if you collect or if you connect with us later and tone and pray with us, it's still going to plug into this field. So let's close down our eyes. Begin to move into interoception, meaning becoming aware of our inner world. Just allowing your awareness to move throughout the body. Just see if you can relax a little deeper. Any areas that might be feeling tense. Just breathing in the energy of peace here. And allow the breath to begin to deepen into the belly. Relaxed, long, beautiful, life-giving breaths. And imagine that you are breathing in the breath of Mother Earth, that she is breathing you. Begin now to take your awareness into the center of your chest, to the heart chakra, And imagine that your heart center is shining, just like a star, radiant, with an infinitude of flowing light. The ancient Taoists of the Orient called the heart the master of vibrations. And cutting-edge scientists at the Heart Math Institute reverberate that information by proving that the heart's electromagnetic field is the most powerful field in the body. So feeling the field of your heart shining with the great power of your soul, and begin to load into your heart the vibration of peace. Begin to imagine this peace in the world. What do you see? If the great peace, which is the prophecy of certain Native American tribes, what would happen if the whole world was devoted to peace? Perhaps you see scenes of wars ending, humans of different cultures that have been throttled into positions of conflict embracing. And of course, extending beyond our human family, bringing peace to our relationship with the natural environment, to animals, to the plants, to all our relations. We evoke the power of Gaia, feeling from the bottom of our body, from our root chakra, the light of Gaia moving up the central column of our energy body, and connecting with our hearts, enthusing its radiance even more. Feeling all of us who are engaged in this prayer together, feel our hearts are now uniting with light. Empowering each other, making our hearts even shine brighter. And now, coming back to your holy heart, and simply being in the inner posture of emanating this vibratory field of peace, staying centered in that, breathing peace in, breathing peace out as another layer that can help you maintain the presencing of your peace. We will use the sacred vowel sound of Om in the traditional way, the A, the U, the M, as the vibration of the universe itself, as the Vedic sages of India tell us. So it sounds like letting each tone, each sound from the voice be gentle. Allow it to pour out from the heart, furthering, empowering the emanation of peace that we are blessing and bringing into the world. So enough instructions. Let us enter deeply now into our prayer for peace with the voice, if you feel like joining. maintaining the vibration of peace in your heart, and now opening the voice to simply be free, free in its singing and its toning. Slowly coming back. Start to find that beautiful connection to your life-giving breath once again. Feeling that peace in your heart. And drawing the hands together in front of your heart and just bowing into your heart space. Then releasing the hands, opening the eyes. So thank you so much for your beautiful work of peace tonight. I hope you felt something very powerful in all of our connection, and I invite you to really hold that vibration of peace and to gather your own prayers with friends and community and activate these powers when we come together, the magic of consciousness amplified. So thank you oh so much. And I also just want to share that I'll be on tour very soon in Ontario, Canada in May for 3 weeks. And then I'm off to Europe probably until July, and then I'll be coming back to Canada. And I am also offering part of a beautiful retreat in Mount Shasta at the end of August, a very spiritual, mystical retreat. It's going to be my first time there. You can find all of this on my website, darrenaustinhall.com. But yes, may peace reign on this planet. May the times of awakening continue. And thank you once again, sending you all so much love.